Hey, welcome back to my channel, Duct Tape Mechanic, and to another episode of my series, Free on Facebook, a series of videos in which I find things for free and I show you how to repair them, recycle them, or repurpose them in another way. In this video, I got this GE washer that's not draining. So I'm going to show you the top 4 reasons why your GE washer might not be draining. So if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel for more DIY and tinkering videos. This channel is at about 15,000 subscribers as of this video, so the next goal is to get to 100,000. So if we get to that, that would be awesome. Thank you. Right, so I'm not going to be covering this in the order of most likely to least likely. I'm just going to be covering them in the order of what's easiest to test out and eliminate first. So the very first thing we want to do if your washer is not draining is come back to the drain hose and make sure it's not kinked or clogged. And the way to do that, well, the way to make sure it's not kinked is just to get a just see how it looks, or give it a good inspection. But to make sure it's not clogged, go ahead and undo this clip right here, and then maybe get your garden hose and make sure some water will run all the way from this end through the end that goes into the standpipe. And it's also not a bad idea to make sure it's not your standpipe, which is what your washer is draining into, that's not clogged itself. So yeah, all you got to do to unclip it is this little clip right here. And if that's clogged, it'll cause the entire washing machine to be backed up and it won't drain properly. Alright, so I've removed the drain hose, and like I said, the best thing to do is maybe put some water with the garden hose through this end and see if it comes out smoothly through this end, and that'll make sure it's clear of any obstructions. Alright, so let's move on to the second part, which is testing out the pump. To get to the pump on this machine, we're going to have to set it on its back. If you like, you can get a piece of wood like this and put it behind the machine so you don't damage the outlet to the drain or the valves or something like that. Okay, so we got the washing machine on its back, and this right here is the drain pump. Now we're going to measure the resistance of the drain pump. So essentially we're going to be measuring to see if the wires inside here that run the drain pump motor are okay. In order to do that, we do need to disconnect the drain pump. And it can be a little bit tricky, but once I show you how to disconnect it, it'll be a lot easier. This is the drain pump, and to disconnect it, it's this connector right here, but it's a little bit confusing of a connector because you don't want to disconnect it from this white tab here. It's actually a tab you want to push where I'm kind of pushing with my finger here, and that will, you push that. At the meantime, at the same time you push up, and it'll disconnect from the rest of the connector. So I'll do that once more. Push that in, and I'm going to be pushing from this side right here and pulling up at the same time, and it comes out nice and easy. Alright, to measure and test out the drain pump, we'll need to put our meter into resistance mode. Let's just put it into auto resistance here, and we're looking for resistance values of 15 to around 30 ohms. And I'm getting these numbers from the tech sheet, which is underneath, which should be attached to the cabin of the washer. So hopefully you can see it there. So right now it's reading OL, which means pretty much it's an open circuit, so which means there is no connections between the wires. So the probes do not matter what direction you put them in, as long as they're both in. Polarity does not matter. And as you can see, this is reading 27 ohms of resistance, so that's within the 15 to 30 ohms that's provided by the tech sheet. Now, with that being said, if you do this and the number is really high, that indicates it's an issue. Maybe the windings are beginning to burn. Or if you do this and if you get continue to get an OL reading, that tells you that the drain pump is an open circuit and the windings have completely shorted out and are no longer connected with each other. So that's the second quick test to make sure. your washing machine not draining, the second test is pretty much to check if your drain pump is electronically okay. Alright, let's move on to the number 3, which is the outlet of the tub. Alright, so next thing we'll be doing is inspecting the outlet of the tub. In order to do that, we'll have to remove the drain pump. And in order to do that, we'll need a 3/8 inch nut driver to remove the 3 bolts that hold it on. And there it is. That's our culprit right there. A piece of clothing, looks like maybe child socks, got stuck in the drain pump right here. But surprisingly, this is not the first time I've seen this. Sometimes you'll see them in the pump or stuck on the outlet side of the tub. And so what we can do is we can also remove this outlet hose as well. So there's our culprit. Just socks was stuck in there. This will actually, it could stuck now. It could also burn the motor, but in this case, it looks like it was just mostly just clogging it up. And if it's not there, you can also inspect this small outlet hose as well. It's easy to see down there and see through the other side to see if somehow it got through the drain motor and continued its way and got stuck in this small hose right here. Yeah, if it's not, so this is 3 different points: the outlet of the tub, the inlet of the pump, looks like there's some other stuff in here, gunk as well, and this small outlet tube as well. So that was the cause in this case, but there's still one more cause left, and that's the main control board, and we're just gonna get to that by a process of elimination. So if you tested all these components and your machine is still not draining, you've made sure it's free of clogs, and you've tested the pump, then most likely it's a control board issue. I'm going to show you a quick way to check to make sure the control board is outputting the 120 volts required to go to the drain pump. If it's not, then you definitely know that it's an issue with the control board. Unfortunately, for this GE model right here, or pretty much any sort of GE model, the control boards are really expensive, and then you have to make that decision if whether you want to purchase the control board or scrap the dryer or the washer. In case if you're wondering how that sock may have gotten in there, well, between the inner and outer tub right here, there is a small gap. And like I said, this is not the first time I've seen this. I actually have a short video on the YouTube Shorts section of a Maytag washer that had a very similar issue. So it's for a small piece of laundry to get through here, it's not impossible. Alright, so for the last part, we do have to be careful because the machine, we will be testing this machine while it's plugged in. So because we need to measure output voltages, not just resistance values. So if you don't feel comfortable doing this, please don't do it. So what we'll have to do to get to the access to the control board is to remove these 2 1/4-inch screws. This panel out by sliding to the right and then out. Then what we'll have to do is kind of gotta get this camera over here, and we can get access to it by kind of pulling it and rotating it over, and that'll give us access to the control panel and all the wires. There we go. Right, so to test the control board, so you know whether it's actually bad before purchasing a new one, you want to come to connector J512. You can see it right there. I think I'm upside down, so I'm going to come around here and we'll take a look at it from over here. And so that's J512. Hopefully you can see that, J512. Perfect. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect this connector. Right now the power is off, it's not plugged in, and then we're going to put our multimeter into AC voltage, and then we're going to plug this thing into the wall and put the washer into the drain and spin mode while taking the measurement of pin number 2 and pin number 3. So that's between the purple and the white wire. So 2 and 3, and while it's draining, we should have 120 volts coming out of pin number 2 and 3. That tells us that there's at least the correct voltage coming from the main board going to the drain pump. And if there's not 120 volts, you know for sure this control board is bad. So we'll do that next. Alright, so right now we got it in the drain mode. So now I've got my multimeter in the AC voltage. I'm going to put it on pin 2 and 3 while trying to show you what it's reading. And let's see if I can do that. I'm also holding up the multimeter. As you can see, we are getting 120 volts. It's kind of hard to do this at the same time, but that shows you right there 120 volts. So in our case it was a little bit more evident because we saw the baby sock stuck in the inlet of the drain pump, but it also shows that our control board is putting out the correct 120 volts, so we know our board is good. So if yours wasn't doing that, it's the board you have to replace. Hopefully you found this video to be helpful, and if you did, make sure you hit the thumbs up sign.